So the Tour de France trailer and Steam page have finally dropped, and here is everything that you need to know about the game in 2026. Let's start with the trailer, shall we?
Yes, exactly. And that's why all eyes are on Pogacar.
He might have a chance to become the
So we're instantly hit with a main feature of the 2026 game, and that is that weather options will now increase to the likes of rain, which I'm sure my British audience would appreciate after the first few months of this year.
No!
time wins record holder.
That's either two people stuck together in the crowd or one absolutely awful haircut.
I told you, impossible to ignore.
Oscar Onley ahead of Tadej Pogacar and at the top of the general classification.
And this is only the start.
I find it interesting that they've used the virtual general classification graphic alongside Tadej Pogacar in this particular trailer, because the Tour de France game used to have a virtual general classification that popped up at random points during the stage, and it was pretty useful, and a feature that I kind of want them to bring back. However, as this is a Tour de France and Pro Cycling Manager game trailer, they already have this feature in Pro Cycling Manager, so I don't know whether it will be added for this year's game.
Honestly, the road conditions are starting to look dangerous.
I think I can say fairly confidently that these commentators will not be used for the Tour de France game, and they are only used for the trailer in particular, because some of the lines they say are far too specific and not vague enough to actually be lines from the game.
No! This can't be happening, but the monster can still come back this season.
After all the speculation following it not being in the game last year, Montmartre is in the Tour de France 2026 game as a playable stage on the final day of the Tour de France. And there are some other new stages that we will get to later. So Tadej Pogacar will be the cover star for Pro Cycling Manager 26 and the Tour de France 2026 game, and he follows in a line of succession that includes Peter Sagan, Julien Alaphilippe, Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, Quentin Paché maybe? I mean, who is this guy? Jonas Vingegaard and Wout van Aert again. So they do pick the best riders and whoever that fake guy was for 2023. And the release date will be Thursday the 4th of June 2026. So get that one in the diary if you are planning to buy the game on release day. You can also wishlist the game on Steam in advance, and the Steam page is what we're going to be using for more info on the game. And we're going to start with the rain, because the Steam page mentions changing conditions and slippery roads. So first of all, if you're going round corners in the wet, like in real life, you're going to have to brake earlier and go through them a little more slowly to avoid slipping out and crashing. And also going down descents, you're just going to have to be a little more cautious when in the rain. But changing conditions is the thing that interests me the most. Because on the Steam page, it says, just like in real life, the weather can change at any moment. A stage that begins under clear skies can end in heavy rain, forcing you to adapt your strategy mid-stage. So, weather can change throughout a stage. It doesn't have to always be the same weather throughout the stage like we've seen in previous Tour de France games. It could start raining and become drier and clearer as the stage goes on, or vice versa. So that could lead to some really good storylines and cinematics for certain stages. The attire of riders will also change with the weather. So on a specifically cold or rainy stage, they might put on arm warmers or increase the length of their shorts to make them a little bit warmer. One race where you won't be needing arm and leg warmers on your riders is the Muscat Classic, which is one of 2 new classics that will be in the game for 2026. This Muscat Classic is a February race, so it will be one of the first races that you will do when you start a new pro leader or pro team mode, and it's a very hilly race, lots of short, steep climbs with a flattish finish after a descent. It was won by Mauro Schmid this year, but you might see some very different scenery because it is a desert race. The Muscat Classic is an ASO race, which makes sense as to why it's been licensed, but they also have the Tour of Oman, so it's a bit weird that the Muscat Classic is in the game and the Tour of Oman isn't. But from the sand to the dirt roads as we head to Paris Tour, which is the other classic in the game. Now this one occurs in October, so that will be one of the last races that you do in your pro leader or pro team save. And it is a very fun race indeed because of the dirt road aspect. It is a long classic with 10 dust road sections and a couple of hills towards the end to make things interesting, but it is usually won by a very good engine on the flat with a little bit of sprint. And those are the types of riders that you'll probably be seeing towards the front on the team time trial in Barcelona at the Tour de France this year. And indeed, the game has updated the settings to allow for the new team time trial rules to take effect. That means that individual riders are given their own times rather than a collective team time, which, if you're not in cycling, doesn't make any sense at all. In the team time trial as well, you can set your start order this time instead of it being completely random as to who's at the front and who's at the back to start off your effort. Although I don't like the new team time trial format when actually watching racing, I do like the fact that it is in the game because of course that increases the realism. Another feature that will add realism and immersion is the official national champions jerseys being included. So for example, in this picture of Egan Bernal and Dorian Gourdon, Gourdon is in a custom French national champions jersey and Bernal is in a custom Colombian national champions jersey. Whether that means you can change the national champion jerseys over is another question. Some more info is that there will be new routes for the World Championship courses this year, including an Omani race, which adds up to the desert backgrounds and the Muscat Classic being in the game, but also in Italy, the Basque Country, and in France. And my guess is that on those routes you will have to pick which bike you want carefully, because that is the final new feature on the Steam page that we are going to be discussing, because they've brought over a feature from Pro Cycling Manager, which is that you can choose which bike you want. So you could perhaps have an aero bike for sprints or flat races and then switch to a lighter bike on mountainous stages. That's fun, and that has been added from PCM, where you could pick individual bikes for individual riders. So that is everything for the Steam page, but there are a couple more things that we need to iron out before we finish this video, and that is to do with licenses, because based on the trailer and the Steam page, all of the teams that are racing the 2026 Tour de France will be licensed, as will Euskaltel Euskadi, but there is no certainty that the likes of the Unibet Titema Rockets or Team Flanders Baloise will be licensed for this year. So we're going to have to wait on info as to whether they're licensed or not. And for the nerds, there are 4 confirmed bike manufacturers that are licensed in this game. That is Canyon, so the likes of Movistar and Alpecin Premier Tech can have licensed bikes. Van Rysel are in there, as are Specialized and Willia. As for wheels, Zip Wheels, Black Ink, Roval, Bontrager, Vision and Swiss Slide will all be wheel manufacturers, and they link to the following teams on screen. But that is all I have for you from the trailer. I think we've squeezed the lemon to the point where we cannot get any more juice out of it whatsoever, so hopefully that has given you a little more information about what the 2026 game has to hold, and I will keep my eye on any other announcements that come out in due course, so stay subscribed if you want clips of that. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed this deep dive, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.